The sovereignty movement was founded by Women in Green in 2011 when we found out that, and we realized that despite us being in already since '93 screaming against the Oslo agreements, saying no to a Palestinian state, no to give them the terrorist weapons, no. What is the yes of the national camp? What do we want? When we say no to a Palestinian state, when we say don't give away part of our homeland, what is the plan of the national camp? It's really my co-chair, Judith Katzover, who is the one who's behind it all. And we basically decided to promote the plan that should have been done the day that we won the Six-Day War. We won the war after 6 days, and we returned to all our biblical heartlands, but we never finished the victory by including the areas that we won and that we returned to into the land of Israel. And for all those years, there's been a question mark over Judea and Samaria. To whom does it belong? There is the civil administration that administers those areas, but never did Israel include it. And we said that the plan of the national camp is a sovereignty plan, that we have to apply sovereignty over Judea and Samaria to finally tell the world that this land is ours. There's no question mark about it. And we have a plan, including what to do, of course, with the people who also live here with us. And the purpose is to make the people understand that there will be only real peace and real stability when we will have finally sovereignty over Judea and Samaria. It will bring peace and stability for the Jews and the Arabs alike. The two-state solution is basically a suicide for the state of Israel. We cannot have a foreign entity here.
But despite this, you reject, as I understand, the U.S. peace plan in its entirety.
Yes, the amazing thing that happened here is that, on the one hand, and we applaud him for that, the President Trump and his administration have declared that the land of Israel is biblical land. It belongs to us. The legality of the Jewish communities in Judea and Samaria. But all those beautiful words contradict the actual Trump plan, which basically involves incredible threats and dangers to the future of the state of Israel, because it speaks about 30% of sovereignty, but the rest of the area, 70%, is meant to become a Palestinian state, abandoning entire communities to become enclaves, abandoning huge parts of the Negev to become a part of the Palestinian state. So all those clauses in the Trump plan who contradict basically the very good statement they said about our right to this land. It also severely damages the Zionist vision and the historic right of the Jewish people to its land. So we're not saying no to sovereignty. We're saying yes to sovereignty, but with no linkage to the Trump plan, as long as it involves all those dangerous clauses.
Now, let me guess what many of our listeners might be thinking right now. They might be thinking, is she out of her mind? For decades, we have associated Nadia Matar with the struggle for the greater land of Israel, and now, finally, after 50 years, when the government is on the cusp of extending sovereignty to parts of the West Bank, here she is, leading a campaign against it.
Can you imagine? We never did we believe that somebody would revive the monster of the Palestinian state. And I met somebody this morning in the supermarket who said, you, Nadia Matar, and you, Katzover, you, the sovereignty movement, you're now going against sovereignty for 30%? When finally you are being brought to the chuppah, with the bride? I said, yes, but if the chatan, the groom, is a monster, I'm not going to get married to him. And the problem is that the part of the Trump plan are really so dangerous, even though they're written as only in principle and only if the Arabs will become Canadians. But in the end, we can have another president who will take away all the clauses that the Arabs are supposed to abide by, and that it could be that a new Arafat will come and will agree to sit down. So telling us that we should agree because anyway the Arabs will not agree is a very dangerous statement. And we are an ideological movement. No. We cannot give up 2 children we cannot give up 4 children in order to save 2 of our children.
So let's move forward now. Fast forward 3 weeks to the beginning of July. The Prime Minister introduces his sovereignty plan, and the Americans don't change anything against your wishes. Then what will you do? Are you going to start blocking roads and carrying out acts of civil disobedience like the Oslo period?
We will, up until then, we will do all we can to convince Prime Minister Netanyahu to be like Levi Eshkol and Menachem Begin who understood that if we have real friends in the United States, and we do, those are real friends who really care about Israel, and they already, in theory, agreed to our applying of sovereignty, then they will also accept in the end a prime minister who stands firm and says, my people do not want it to be linked at all to any Palestinian state. I will be like Levi Eshkol and Menachem Begin, who, despite the fact that the Americans didn't agree at the beginning to what they did, they had the omets, they had the courage to do something that is in the best interest of Israel, and in the end, they got the respect of America too and of the entire world. We call upon our prime minister to yes to sovereignty, no to a Palestinian state, and we know that our friends, and especially the evangelical world, who knows that it is our biblical heartland, who also oppose the creation of a Palestinian state, in the end, when we met with different people from the American administration, they said, in the end, you guys have to decide what you do and what you have to do, and we will respect that.
Are you meeting with representatives of the U.S. and evangelical community to try to persuade them?
And also, not meeting physically because of Corona, it's a little bit difficult, but talking and etc. And I can tell you that we had 2 guests here in Osve Gaon, the place we set up in memory of the 3 boys, and when we asked them who revived the monster of the Palestinian state and why is it in the Trump deal, they said, we are embarrassed, we don't know, and we also oppose it. And so you should know that the majority of the people understand that we cannot accept the clauses that talk about giving away 70% in order to get 30%, when we know the 100% belongs to the Jewish people. And therefore we know that we want to give the strength to our prime minister and our government, and we're talking to them, yes to sovereignty, apply sovereignty, but do not string it, do not link it at all with any of the clauses of the Trump deal or with anything with the Trump deal.